Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Okay. So welcome to the library. Thank you all for being here. My name's Ann Hutchison. I'm the director of the library here. And as Marty can attest, this program is a long time coming. It was originally scheduled for March of 2020. And so we're thrilled that we're all still here and able to finally hold the program. Just so you know, in our boardroom, which you'll see when you go out, we have our local history librarian, Sarah, has some of the library's sports or basketball memorabilia. And there's also film clips from the seasons playing. So be sure to stop in there. There's a lot to look at up here too. I wasn't in Barberton in 1976. But you're going to hear some of the clip from the McKinley game, and in listening to it, I just can't even imagine how exciting. It gives me goosebumps every time I hear it. And I think you'll feel the same. But part of the purpose of this program was Marty wanted to donate his scrapbooks to the library. So there are 19 scrapbooks.
Renee told me to get him out of the house.
So those will be at the Barberton Public Library, available for viewing anytime. This program is being recorded and it's going to be made available early next week. You'll be able to access it on the library's homepage, the library's website, the library's Facebook page, or YouTube. So if you missed something, you want to watch it or share the link with your friends. I guess we're going to be using the microphone for sure. Just a reminder, we do have an extensive local history collection here at the library. And if you have time or can come back, head up to the first floor and we'll be happy to share with you what we have. The next local history program that's coming up is going to be May 17th at 2:30, and Sarah's going to be talking about the history of the Anna D farm. So join us if you're able. So a little bit about Mark and Marty. They were born 6 minutes apart, and I'm told, who's the oldest again? Who's the oldest by 6 minutes, to Andy and Verna Bodnar. They were expecting a daughter. They already had two boys, Andy and Mike. And a girl, Chris.
Hey, raise your hands.
Yeah, raise your hands.
Stand up. Chris, Mike, Andy, stand up. Come on. There they are.
The parents were hoping to even the score at 2-2, but it wasn't in the cards. They even had a name picked out, Anne Elizabeth, and the Beacon magazine, which is available to view in the boardroom when you leave. They ran an article and it was titled "The Old Purple Magic: How Anne Elizabeth Bodnar Turned into the Best Twin Basketball Players in Ohio." Marty has donated copies of the article and you're welcome to stop by and look at it. So we're grateful that the Bodnar twins, instead of Anne Elizabeth, were born in Barberton, Ohio, and that they're here today to reminisce. So thank you.
Thank you.
You hear me now?
No.
Of course you can't hear me. You don't get a hearing aid. So thank you, Ann, for the Barberton Public Library for accepting my scrapbooks. I really appreciate it. She done a fantastic job putting this program on. This program was scheduled 3 years ago. It was canceled a week before COVID. But I also got to thank Randy Forrest and Mike Eberhardt, because they, way back when, we were supposed to go to Columbus to be honored at the halftime of a game down here in 2020. And that's how, in many respects, how this whole thing got started. Was I don't think someone on Twitter was bugging people in Columbus, and we were going to go down there. And then this event was going to happen, and now it got canceled. But so I thank you for helping it get started. Thank you, Randy, for helping me contact a lot of our former teammates, and thank you for my former teammates for coming here. And yeah, the good custodian on these scrapbooks for 3 years. Because they were supposed to be 3 years ago. They were in this basement, and he actually found them 3 years later. And so I appreciate that. And Also, I gotta thank my brother Andy, my sister Chris, and Mike,
Right.
because 2.5 years ago, my wife and I, Renee, were blessed with twin grandsons. And so there's another set of Bodnar twins running around on it's basically Lincoln and McKinley. So as we watch my son and Mary Kate, his wife, raise these twins, oh my. Do I have a greater appreciation? Yeah, really, Chris. Those two, they're probably hiding in their bedrooms. But so, seriously, when I watch these grandkids grow up and, the challenge of raising twins, it really took me back to my brothers and sisters and my parents. And it is true, my mom wanted a girl, make it 2-2, but she didn't. It was 4-1. So that's what's happened. So what we're going to do today is gonna kind of break into 4 segments. Mark and I are gonna share life before high school. How in the heck that happened. Our sophomore year, our junior year, and our senior year, and we got different perspectives. Preparing for this day has just flooded both of us with a lot of thoughts and memories, and we just kind of want to share them from a different perspective that we have after 47 years, because 47 years on Monday is when we won the state championship. I don't know why we're having it today. That's why. Because it's March 25th. It's a Saturday, but Monday is now also 3 years from now, we'll be celebrating the 50th. And I already looked on the calendar, and that is a Friday night. So for my teammates, March 27th, 2026, we're going to have a reunion that Friday night, and then maybe Saturday night do something else. So time flies when you're having fun.
That at your house?
All right. So anyways, that's enough for introductions. I'll turn it over to Mark so he can kind of share a little bit about, life before high school.
Well, I have to really thank Marty for taking the initiative to put this together.
Well, why don't you tell what you told me at breakfast?
Well, there's a famous story that I think some of you maybe have heard, that being a little older, I felt the privilege of having a younger brother do a lot of work. So I don't know, maybe we were 6th or 7th grade, it would snow, and Marty would go up to Crispin Park and shovel 6 inches of snow, and I would just sit at home in Parkview Avenue, being nice, warm and comfortable, and wait a couple hours, and I'd go up and, play hoop, because Marty had already shoveled the snow. I feel, here it is 55 years later, and it's the same thing, He did all the work, I just showed up. I feel sort of guilty about it, yeah. But it's great to see everybody. And I think what's most important, it was supposed to be Anna Elizabeth. And I think that one of the keys to our success was the fact that we grew up in a community like Barberton, where there were so many people that cared about everybody. There was youth football, youth basketball. And, we had brothers that we could compete against. We could compete against, I think Andy's 8 years older, Mike's 6 years older. So that you can't minimize how important that was. The fact that we could have their friends come over in the back of Parkview Avenue and school them when we were 5th or 6th grade. And we still talk about that. But to be able to compete against older brothers and their friends when we're in 5th, 6th, 7th grade, I think was paramount in our success. I guess if we were older, it may not have been as important, but there is Andy, when did Jack come to town? Were you on his first team?
Going to my 1969, going to my senior year, and he came over to our house and he said, introduced himself to me, brought a basketball, and he said, I said, I got young brothers in 5th grade, they're really good. He goes, yeah, I'm sure. And then he said, well, if they need anything, go down to the sporting goods store in Barberton, Prestos or whatever. He says they just have them buy shoes and basketballs if they need them, just the booster club to have.
Yeah,
And that's how it happened.
I distinctly remember Jack coming over, and so I must have been, I don't know how.
10 years old.
Yeah, and he came to our house. Jackie, I don't know if you knew that, but he handed us a couple basketballs. He sort of introduced himself. he was.
But he told our mother he was gonna turn this town into a basketball
Yeah,
town.
he said that. I remember. Yeah, we thought he was great.
1969, we thought he was crazy.
You guys- I'm behind the tape, behind me.
I had to take, oh.
You guys are
Okay,
beautiful.
all right.
Thank you.
Yeah, he said, I remember.
To add on what Mark said, I was thinking about this earlier, because Andy was our first coach at CYO. And the story there, we were at St. Nicholas Byzantine Church, and a little side story, that the pastor turned the gym into a social hall. Remember that? So, we had to go cross town to Holy Trinity. So we went to Holy Trinity. But, I was thinking, it wasn't so much you were our first coach, Andy. It was the fact that you took us to Crispin Park.
That's right.
It wasn't the fact you were a first coach. And we're going up there playing against Tom Brapson and all these old Bob Buck and everybody.
Joe Sarge,
Joe
Joe
Sarge.
Sarge, Larry Hazard, but he was in Austin, Texas, so.
Has was there, but the mere fact we're playing against, I don't know, how much older are you than me, Has? I don't know, 12 years old. I mean, but that's pretty significant. Is that not that Andy was our coach, but that he took us up to Crispin and exposed us to playing against all these older people. And you get better playing basketball when you're playing against older people. And at the time, we don't even realize it, but that's the reality of what happened. If people want to get better, go play against older people. We were a beneficiary of that.
And many of you may or may not know, but we were asked to play ninth grade basketball when we were in seventh grade. And yeah, some of you may not know that. And I don't know who was involved in that decision. I imagine it was Dave Cooper, who was the coach of Portage.
He's at the beach, by the way.
Yeah.
He says he's at the beach, so.
There's no question we wouldn't have been able to play ninth grade basketball without competing against our brothers or friends and all the older players at Crispin. That prepared us. And I don't remember who was in charge of that decision, but it was very, very helpful in preparing us for high school without question. Took Tom Newmoff's starting spot and he still showed up today, so I feel good about it. All right. No regrets or anything like that,
Not offended.
But that was not an easy time per se. So here we are, seventh grade going into Portage. And it's junior high, and seventh grade is one of those strange years. And we're thrust into playing ninth grade with guys who are 2 years older. Now we're starting, and I don't know if there was much resentment, but it wasn't easy. And I think we learned from that, and it prepared us for what we experienced in high school. And I don't think we lost your ninth grade year. We lost a few games. Can't remember, Tom. Do you remember? It's all your fault. You should remember. No, we lost a few games, but I think our eighth grade and ninth grade year went undefeated. And the second phase of this is over at UL Light. There happened to be great Cheatham's, Jimmy Graham, Tony Ward, Carter Scott. UL Light had great teams.
Oh, wait a minute. UL Light never lost. Their only losses were to us.
Right.
So these two classes were converging in sophomore year.
Yeah.
What about Highland?
I don't remember.
The story about Highland. The story about Highland is that Dave Cooper.
For winter.
Dave Cooper taught at Highland, but he coached us at Portage, and we scored 100 points on Highland. Can you imagine what it was like to go back to school on Monday?
I did not know that.
Yes, that's true.
Really?
But the other thing I also, not only we play against these older people, but then we're at that age where we're filing, Jack came into town, but I have memories of filing teams under Bo Dutton. Remember Al Gerard and Elwood Palmer, God rest his soul, Elwood Palmer was one of my first images of
Vernon Palmer.
Vernon Palmer too.
That guy could jump.
So, and then Jack came, and then, the teams with Tom Brapson, Zeddy Sims, Jeff Janig, Ed E-House, that's a lot of image. The key of that is the fact that we were the beneficiaries of that. Jack told us that he pushed that team too hard, and because Jack could be a hard driver. So, we were kind of the beneficiary of that. So, and speaking of being a beneficiary, you got to tell the story of our sophomore year when he was driving us a little bit and we won all these games, and
Yeah, I want to reemphasize what Marty said about following those teams, because with Andy being on the first team, I distinctly remember going to Copley High School and waiting to get into the gym for those district and final games, you know, like everybody else. And when the Magics would lose, we felt the pain. We felt the pain, which was an interesting story. I just talked to Ralph Pym just recently. I'll talk about Ralph recently. I'm digressing a little bit, but Ralph knows Coach K from Duke very well. And he asked Coach K one time what he thought about AAU basketball. Coach K's problem with AAU basketball is when those kids lose, they play so many games, it doesn't hurt. And that really resonated. He told me that the other day, Ralph, because, you know, when we lost in high school or we watched the Brapson teams lose, the Zeddy teams and Niehaus teams, man, it hurt. It really hurt because it meant something back then. Now these kids are playing the AAU and they lose and they just go play another game and their high school doesn't mean as much. And you think about that and how important that those times were back then. It was really, really special. You think about it now, as it relates, because these kids go off and play AAU. So I digressed with that, but I wanted to emphasize that our heart broke every time those teams lost. And so when we got a chance to play in our sophomore year, it was special. It's something we always wanted to do. And so Jack used to push you guys. And I'm sure I remember Andy telling stories when he first started Jack's first year. Those guys took the brunt of it because Jack was pushing all those teams. So we go undefeated our sophomore year. So I guess we're now in our sophomore year. And Jack knew he pushed those teams. And so he wanted to lighten up a little bit. We're undefeated. And he decides to cancel practice and take us to a movie, The Towering Inferno. Remember that? I'm trying. But it was like, oh, I don't know. It was some big inferno. Well, we go out and lose Lorraine Southfield. Lost 2 out of 3. We lost 2 out of 3. Marty's had a chance to look up the scrapbooks. 2 out of 3. Yeah. We go up.
Never
there.
went to another movie.
Yeah. So if you have nothing to do tonight, just go and watch Towering Inferno. Who was in that movie? Because I've never watched it since. Why Jack did that, I have no idea. But no more movies, trust me.
But the images of our sophomore year, if you want good images, the library over here has that highlight tape playing. But Jack, I don't know where the highlight tape came from, Tommy. He made it, I think, Jack. Yeah. And so I don't know how long it is, but it's just a highlight tape. And it starts our sophomore year because Freddie Johnson's there. And it just, that brings back a lot of memories. So the sophomore year is really a lot on that highlight tape. And we also have it, Ralph Pym has a tape, but my memory of my sophomore year is a positive memory, and it's kind of crazy, but it's a positive memory because I had back surgery. I had back problems. It was the East Tech game, I mean, regional semifinals. I just distinctly remember driving back from the arena to Barberton, and my back was aching. I don't recall falling or anything in the game, nothing. But I just could tell I wasn't right. And we played the next game was against Can McKinley and with Phil Hubbard. And that was kind of a momentous occasion for us because we lost. But that's where Michigan first saw us play because they were recruiting Phil Hubbard. Phil Hubbard went off to play for Michigan. But the off season in June, my back just started bothering me. And my mom, she was, raising us for. You're okay. But just tough it up. And man, when she took me to the neurologist and confirmed it was a slip disc, man, she cried like a baby. Upset. And then I had to have surgery, August 1st, 1975. But I look back on those times and I say to myself, it was really a blessing because prior to that, I call it my Basketball Jones phase. A lot of you people remember that song, Basketball Jones, back in the day? Well, that was me. I was committed to the sport. And to show you how committed I was to basketball, and you guys remember my sister and brothers, used to wear out a pair of tennis shoes in about 7 to 10 days. And then we were down at Prestos and Aragons all the time wearing those. I don't know if it's because we were on concrete or just cheap shoes or what, but it was 7 to 10 days. About a year and a half ago, I gave a talk to some 4th graders up in Ann Arbor. A friend of mine asked me to talk to them, and I told them that story about any questions, a young 4th grader. how much money did your parents spend? I said, that's probably a good question. I probably never really thought about that. My dad had to sell some extra drugs or something. It was a pharmacist. It was all legal. It was. But anyways,
Your dad do, he's a drug dealer.
yeah, but anyway, having that back surgery, and the other thing that reminds me of my time in back surgery, I know all about Watergate because the Watergate hearings were going on there and I had to be lying on a bed doing nothing, watching the Watergate hearings. That's what took me away from that is, I don't know, Larry Hazard turned me on to the classics. Larry,
did?
the English made, yep, I read Native Son and Jane Eyre and all these others.
Really?
Yeah, I've read a lot. You probably never knew that. Thank you,
I was
Larry.
out at the park with.
Larry, you probably don't remember that, but thank you. So that was a time in my life where, geez, for 4 months, I could just step away from the game of basketball and have a little perspective on things, reading books and watching Watergate or just resting and driving out to Wadsworth to rehab for swimming. And then we get into our junior year and I didn't play, he scores 45 points. What's wrong with that story? If I play, he doesn't get 45 points. Go ahead, Mark, tell him he scored.
Well, I think it would be remiss before we get into our junior year, which is obviously the year we won the state championship, that we didn't introduce all the players that were on that team. So everybody on that team, Ricky Jacobs, Kevin Stahl, Vance Cheeto, everybody stand up.
Tony
Tony
Ward.
Ward, Stocker. Guys, we had 4 juniors and a senior. Harold Grisby was a senior. And, we're gonna talk a lot about our junior year. And so these seniors that we had to play against and compete against and practice every day, pushed us.
And beat us.
And beat us. It pissed us off. Cause then I got Jack mad and then all hell broke loose after that. So you can't discount how important these seniors were to this team, when we entered our junior year. Now, Marty's recovering from back surgery. Freddie Grisby is academically ineligible. And Carter Scott really hadn't come on the scene yet. So we start the game against Toledo Central Catholic. And I don't know if anybody here Hazard would know, because
120-66, I think.
122 something, but who started that game, Hazard?
Leon Lewis on that?
God,
team?
only he would
Yes.
know.
Only he would know.
You're right, Leon Lewis.
Who else? Who else?
Who else has?
Harold played.
Harold was started. All right,
Didn't Jack cut? He cut a bunch of stuff.
Well-
Like the year before.
right, but it was Harold Grisby, Leon Lewis, myself, Jimmy Graham, and Tony Ward started that game.
Right? Mhm.
So, what's interesting is we go into that game, I look at this and go, I don't know how does 5 guys in high school score 122 points? It's beyond me. Okay. So we get into that game and, I scored 45 points, but Jack called timeout with, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes to go. And he told everyone I was 6 points away, which I think people need to know because Jack was team, but he did call a timeout and gave me a chance, or at least I didn't even know, and he alerted me to that. And Carter came off the bench, so Carter didn't even start that game. Carter had 21 points. I think Tony Ward had 15, Jimmy had 12, Harold had 10, something like that. So you don't score 122 points unless you got guys that are coming off the bench, other starters that are putting in points. And Ralph Pym, who I'm friends with, I couldn't find that box score, but Ralph had it. He texted to me the other day and he said, I put up 31 shots and my arm's still sore. It hasn't healed since then. Ken, it hasn't healed. It's still, yeah. Jack every once in a while would tell me that I shot too much. It might have been after that game. So that started like, well, I think we got a pretty good team here. Marty's on mend. Freddie's not coming back to like the 15th game, and we've put up 122 points. I don't care who you play, that's a lot of points.
But real quick, we've talked about this at breakfast, is memories come flooding back, and this tells you about the intensity of Jack. So I'm not practicing. I'm on the men, okay? This is the fall of 75. And there's a fire at the high school or something. School's out, noon, whatever.
They're great.
And I'm thinking, great, we can go to practice. We're gonna get home early. Oh, man. It would end up, I mean, Jack, it was like a 4 hour practice. I'm like, I'm sure glad I'm on the men.
You were glad you had a back problem.
Yeah, I'm glad I had a back.
Yeah, 4 hours we practiced. We thought we'd be in time, only time for.
Oh, half the time with Jack, it was him, or I call it haranguing. We would sometimes hear about his sermon at Sunday with Dr. Berman. And we'd hear that. And so he would get on, he was kind of a philosopher and tell us about
Yeah.
life.
And it was during that period that when you saw Jack in school outside of the basketball court, there was a then sort of strange dynamic because he's your coach, and all of a sudden you saw him in class or walking the hallways. Hey, coach. So I distinctly remember Marty's at back surgery, and somehow I'm out of class. I'm walking in the tunnel, and Jack is right there, and we had to walk through the tunnel together, which was sort of a strange dynamic. The whole time Jack thinks I'm Marty. All the time. We're cruising through the tunnel. He's asking me how rehab's going. The whole freaking time. And I just let it go. I didn't want to embarrass the guy.
That's why our nickname in college was Bodge, because Johnny Orr couldn't tell us apart either. He just yelled, Bodge, get in there.
I don't think Jack ever knew. I never did. I never told him that.
You always ask me, because which one's?
That helped with the opponents, by the way.
Yes.
So half the time the opponents didn't know who. We'd run on the court, two would go to Marty, I'd be wide open, vice versa.
No, our junior year, Freddie didn't come back to Warren Harding, I believe. And I recall we had 7 close games, maybe. I don't know. Ken Timpkin was one of them. I mean, I remember in overtime. Lincoln, East Liverpool. I mean, Ricky Jacobs, he saved us at East Liverpool.
Why did you
15
play that
points.
game? Were you sick?
Well, Doc killed me, man.
Yeah.
So the only game that I missed in 3 years, I had an infected blister. And I go to Dr. Dooley, and he had to get in there and it was awful. It's the most painful experience of my life. And he taped it up and I couldn't play. And what people don't know, Ricky Jacobs started and he led the team in scoring 15 points at East Liverpool. Wow.
Dan Timpkin was in overtime and I don't know. Jack sent Mark and I to the corners. Carter got the ball, drove the whole length of the floor and then laid it up. And it's just, we won in overtime or something. So
Is that Mike Midday?
Mike Midday was, he went to Indiana and then transferred
They got
someplace.
the year that year.
Yeah. So Warren Harding, I don't know. We
That
somehow,
was Freddie's first game back
Freddie's first game back, and I believe he hit some key free throws to win the game
at Warren Harding.
at Warren Harding. And Canton Lincoln, we only won by 2. So, we were battle tested. I mean, we knew how to win close games and going into the tournament, we knew how to win them. So, we get in the tournament and we start off with, I don't know who we started off with, we're gonna find out, but Central Howard was in there. Akron East was in there. And I think
East was our senior year.
yeah, East. Okay, so
No, Firestone was your senior.
Hazard knows.
I'll believe it.
We don't need scrapbooks. We just need Haz to live for.
What game did you come back?
Benson was a summer.
What's that? I came back the 3rd game against St. Vincent, St. Mary's. Frank Jesty was the coach. We played there. And I think that was my first game back. So our junior year, I mean, the last thing we were thinking about, clearly, we were not thinking about a state championship. I mean, the beginning of the year, I'm hurt, Freddie's ineligible, Carter's just, I mean, we were not thinking about it at all. And the beauty about Jack and his coaching, he was very much like John Wooden. John Wooden didn't care about the opponent, and Jack didn't care about the opponent. He cared about how we were playing and focused on us. And we never talked about a championship once. Not even when we were going to Columbus, he was so focused on that day's practice, how we we're gonna get it done. But
Did he ever scout, Jackie?
I don't know.
He scouted,
He told
we
us
didn't
he
even
did.
know we were gonna guard until
Yeah.
we left the locker room.
He scouted.
He did?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
He
didn't say that.
He didn't tell you guys. All right, so we're gonna get into the, with some of the scrapbooks, just a little bit about who we played. I want you to see some of these scrapbooks just a little bit. Then we're gonna play the audio of the second half. I don't know who it tape. And so, but before we do that, I want you to lay out, all right, we're down 10.5. I want you to tell what Jack said at half.
So, just to give everybody some context, we had lost to McKinley the previous year as sophomores. And that was the game, I believe, that the councilman came down and pounded. We were getting some good calls and the councilman came down and pounded on the scores table. And the rest is history. Phil Hubbard was a better team and they go on to win. And then McKinley was #1 in the state and we were #2. So it was a rematch. Everybody thought whoever won this might win the state championship. And previous game in East Tech, we beat in the semis and the regionals. Marty only had 3 points that game.
Can I stop you there?
But you want to tell him how you performed that game?
I don't know why I had a bad back. No, that was
Carter at 31 though. Carter at
no, I have no idea. In life, you get in slumps. But I do recall this. I only had 3 points and I was kind of in a slump. And Jack, the magic of Jack was he was a psychologist and knew how to motivate people in different ways. He didn't motivate everybody different ways. So he never had to get on Mark and I too much. He got on Harold all the time. But so I distinctly remember in practice after that game, before the McKinley game, I'm in the corner of the gym. I shoot a ball from the corner. I hit the side of the backboard. Don't even hit the rim. And Jack just lit into me. And I went out and had one of my best games ever the next game in 22. So, I think in some way that was a way in which Jack got me motivated. It got me out of my slump or however he pulled it off. But that's what happened.
So to give everybody sort of a build up to this tape and Harold Grisby's third quarter. Somehow I ended up with 4 fouls in the first half instead of Carter Scott. And so therefore at halftime, we're on the bench going into halftime. We're going into halftime. We're down 10 points against the #1 team in the country at literally their home court. Okay. With the 2 leading scorers on the bench with 4 fouls. Okay. It doesn't look good. Okay. And so we're sitting there and like Marty said, Jack sort of knows what to say at the right time. And he scanned at everybody. He knew at that time that he had to get Harold, Freddie, and Tony Ward and Jim Graham. And he looked at those 4 and said, hey, we're not in the Canton Auditorium. The second half, you got to act like you're at Decker Park and Tusk Park. Okay. Well, it worked because Harold went off. Okay. We're going to play the audio now, but there was a great Harold story later.
10, early in the third quarter, they go up 12. We're down 12. I think I'm going to pick up when we're down about 9. And so, here goes.
3 out of 5. Bodnar with 2 makes the first one. Ohio Edison hopes you're enjoying this afternoon's game, just as they hope you're enjoying the comfort and convenience of electric heating. This shot is up off the rim, no good. McKenzie pulls it down for McKinley. Out to Washington. Stolen away by Freddie Grisby. Grisby with a clean steal. Gives up down to Marty Bodnar. Bodnar will down, takes the shot, and goes. 44, Magic Garbage in 6. 5:41 left in the third period. Shot hits the wall. Washington McKee stolen away by Harold Grisby. 3-4 on one fast break. Carter Scott puts it in. 46 for Magic Garbage in 4 and John Ever wants to call a timeout. Listen to the Barberton fans. There's timeout on the floor with the Magic 46. We'll be right back. Washington will put it up 15 feet away off the rim. Grisby pulls the rebound down. Out to Freddie Grisby. Freddie will take the shot and give it up. In the third period now. And here comes Washington's ball. Up to Jackson. Jackson behind the back dribble. We'll see how Ron McKinley can stay now. They're under the attack. Washington with the ball. Underneath to McKenzie, who puts the shot in, and a big man just fumbled over top of Freddie Grimsby. 52-48. They went to the 5 and he put the fire out momentarily. Grimsby. Freddie dribbling around, having traffic to Harold. Harold will take the shot. It's good. 52-50, 2-point lead for to McKinley. 4:31 left now in the third period. Washington to Jackson. Jackson with the shot. They count the basket. Offensive charge, no basket. 52-50. 4:27 left in the period. Goodbye. Pass over now to Tony Ward. Puts the shot up. No good.
Yeah.
Back to tie it up. 4:07 left in the third period of play. Elmer Jackson with the basketball. Bodnar out guarding here. Deep into the corner now. Shot is up off the against the rebound. Pulled in with Tony Ward. Ward gives up the corner. Shot against the corner. Puts up corner. Rebound. Pulled up the Washington. Washington and Grimsby. Now the Grimsby calls for the foul. Alan Miles is into the ball game now for the Bulldogs. Number 22. And he puts the ball in play to Elmer Jackson. Tie game at 52. Roy puts the shot up around the ring. So good. Rebound, Freddie Grimsby. Grimsby with the basketball across the sideline. Dribbling around now. Back up to Marty Bodnar. Holding it up now. They get to 21 back to Bodnar. 3:23 left in the third period. We're tied at 52-52. Magic were down by 10 at the half. They have run back to track. Bodnar. The Ward. Back down the Marty Bodnar. Presenting Grimsby. Grimsby inches the ball down a little bit. McKinley patiently waiting. They're in the 2-1-2 zone. In now to Harold Grimsby. He'll take the shot.
As you can tell, Harold just went crazy. And I'll leave it for our 25th reunion many years
Well,
ago.
Let me tell a quick story at the end of the game. So of course, I'm on the bench. I like to think I was doing my Mel Carr imitation. But I was clearly just totally amazed that Harold just goes off. I mean, it was just the greatest Harold, Freddie, and that's what team is all about, you know.
I think Tony and Jimmy had 10 great.
Yeah,
10
they each
rebounds
had,
each.
I mean, I looked at the score book over in the other room. Carter and I, two leading scorers in that game, did not get in double figures. Harold had 17, Freddie had 16, Marty had 22. I think Tony had 10 rebounds, Graham had 9 rebounds. So it was just a total team effort, which to me was the biggest game in our high school career, that particular McKinley game. So I got to play the fourth quarter. I think Carter eventually fouled out. And all I remember is Marty hit that hook shot. Pretty good assist for me, wasn't it? And I remember that sort of sealed the game. And I'm standing at the end of the court and I just saw like all the Barberton fans. I just standing there. And it was just truly amazing. It was really, really something. So fast forward, we'll get into our senior year in the state championship. 25 years later, I'm not sure who organized the 25th reunion.
Probably me.
I had nothing to do with
You
it.
had nothing, you showed up.
I just showed up.
Like I shoveled the driveway.
Yeah. Well, I should have just said Marty organized it. You know? But when I was at the Elks, and it was simply, I believe, the team and cheerleaders. And maybe Pam and Annette were there. Marty plays this tape, and Jack could not speak, but Jack was there, and we just reminisced about the championship, and Marty plays this tape. And Harold's there, and Harold by then, you know, was pretty big. And Marty turns to Harold after playing that tape and said, "Harold, what got into you?" And Harold Grisby stands up and looks at Marty and said, well, Marty, when the going gets tough, the tough get going.
No.
He was doing a John Wayne imitation.
No, he said John Wayne imitation. When you're surrounded by the enemy,
Yeah.
you gotta get tough.
Yeah.
That's exactly what
Oh,
Harold.
seeing Harold Grisby do a John Wayne imitation, trust me, was priceless. And there was tears, not of joy, but of pure laughter after Harold did the John Wayne imitation. So,
Right, so. We go off to our senior year.
well, after the McKinley game, I do remember
Well,
coming back on the bus.
No, yeah.
And we're
I'm
chanting,
jumping ahead.
here we go, Columbus, here we go. And we come to the gym and there was a select few people, but I remember my brothers and sisters there. And we just didn't know what we were in store for. But we knew that, you know, we finally had gotten there. And we had done that for really all the past players and the past coaches, because everybody, you know, since Jack had gotten to Barberton, wanted to get to that state championship, and we did it. And then fortunately, we finished it off. So.
Well, the state championship, like I said, it was like, we did it. I mean, Jack never talked about it. We never talked about it. It was just like focused on day in, day out, practice. And then all of a sudden, 82-70, I think was the score. And we beat Middletown and
But the Toledo Scott game, I don't know how they had 49 turnovers.
yeah, I don't know if I read that stat right. The stats say 47 turnovers at Toledo.
That's
Sky.
right.
Like, geez.
And we only beat them by like 3 points. too.
Yeah, it was a close game.
3 points.
I mean, they're tall, their shortest guy was as tall as our tallest guy. They had 6'3" guards and our tallest guy was 6'3", so.
But Dooley beat me up that game because they were physical, tough, and I got a busted lip. So after that game, I'm in the hotel room and Dooley just beat me up my junior year. He's blister, and then he had to put 5 or 6 stitches in my lip. So I had to play the state championship with stitches in my lip. Because I got busted up pretty.
So we win the state championship and we just hear that they're serving purple beer in Barberton. I don't know how word got to us down in Columbus, but is that actually true, by the way? Was there purple beer?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Purple beer.
Second Street.
So then you come back and, you know, you have, we come off, you know, Worcester Road, Tusk, I mean, people lined up everywhere. And then you go in the gymnasium and there's people hanging from the rafters. So that was very meaningful. But what was more meaningful is the next year we lose it and there's still people hanging from the rafters.
Yeah, so, quick story, Jimmy Graham's not here, but Jimmy Graham was my roommate when we went to Columbus our junior year. Before the Toledo Scott and Middletown game. And Jimmy Graham loved his rock and roll, I think.
It's true.
Loved his rock and roll. And back then Todd Rundgren was a major star.
Yeah.
And we would sit in the room before leaving to get on the bus, and Rundgren had this song, One More Victory.
Yeah.
The classic. And we'd listen to that song about 5 times each time. And I remember how it would just sort of pump us up and get us all fired up. So thanks to Todd Rundgren and that song and Jimmy Graham for bringing it for that matter.
So that was our junior year. We go into our senior year and we go to scrimmage out in young Austintown Fitch.
Good.
And come home and Jack has his heart attack.
Good.
And he doesn't coach for 3/4 of the year. Joe Septic takes over. And you know, we just kept on going. And like our junior year, when we won a state title, we had all these close games. I mean, we were pulling them out of our rear end and win them. Our senior year, we had no close games. You know, it got so bad our senior year, we beat Hoban by 92 points.
Oh, my God.
My sister walked out of the game.
I know.
I remember-
You remember that?
Well, I remember coming home and hearing that. But the first string didn't play the 4th quarter. Our second string played the whole 4th quarter. And that was I mean, I don't know how Jack did it, but he had it ingrained in everybody. You go 100% when you're on that court. It doesn't matter what the score is. And we were probably still, I don't know. But that was the magic of Jack Reynolds is we were blowing everybody out. We didn't really get anybody that close.
I got him. Now, Patrick, you'll know this game, but we were getting ready for this. There was our game our senior year that Carter Scott made the most amazing athletic dunk that I'd ever seen. I was at the end. Somehow he took a rebound and someone shot it from the corner and Carter, I mean, you gotta remember Carter was 6'2" or 6'1". He goes out and he sort of windmills it. And I said, oh, I think Carter's gonna be playing somewhere in the next one. You know, because his junior year, he just got better and better and better. And boy, he was athletic. Oh.
But to give you an idea about the mentality of Jack and his coaching, you know, when I was getting ready for this, looking through scrapbooks, you know, read news articles, and we blew out Salem. And Jack, here's his quote. Satisfied? Heck no. I'm not satisfied, even with the win. Whenever you start getting satisfied, that's when you start losing. And that right there is Jack Reynolds' mentality. And I'll tell another story that kind of ties into that mentality. Our senior year, we're playing Firestone in the tournament. We're beating them by 20, I think. And it's about a minute left. Foul shot. I'm way back. And who's back with me but Keith Dambrot. Now, anybody know Keith Dambrot? He's the head coach of Arizona, Akron, and basically discovered LeBron James. Now he's Duquesne. And he's a good friend today because he was teammates with Paul Hireman, who was teammates with us in Michigan. So I got to know Keith. Well, Keith always tells a story because we're back there and a minute ago, we're up 20, and Keith says to me, good game. And I say, it's not over yet. So Keith tells that story because he thought I was a jerk. But when I see him, he will tell that story because he's now a coach and he knows that mentality. And he understands why we were as successful as we were is because the culture that Jack had created since 1969 with everybody to that point where, you know, it's not over till that bell is ringing. And so Keith likes to tell that story.
You don't average 99 points our senior year unless you got the 7th, 8th, 9th, all the way to the 12th man coming on court and playing with the same focus and intensity that we played with. And was the magic of Jack. He had everybody prepared and everybody was ready to play. And when they got in, they played as hard as we did. And it was really something to see.
So we go losing to Lyndon McKinley by 6 points. All right, junior year, I knew we were going to beat Middletown. My senior year, I didn't quite have that same feeling. I think part of it's because when you blow out everybody, you kind of lose that little bit of an edge. And so we got in a tight ball game. And, you know, junior year, we knew how to win tight ball games. Senior year, this was kind of something new to us. And so, you know, we lost it. But I remember to this day, walking out of St. John's Arena, sunny day, man, was I relieved. I mean, you guys were all pissed off the ref. I wasn't. I walked out and I was just so relieved. Because, you know, as 17-year-old, and you put your heart and soul in this whole thing for all these years. And, you know, we got this, you know, we were 99, averaging 99. We were at such a high level. So we came up short. I was just relieved. And to this day, you know, when someone wins the championship, I know what it feels like. And when someone loses, I know what it feels like. So, you know, I think in some regards, losing that state championship was a blessing. That's what I look at.
Many of you know Buster Douglas was on that Lyndon McKinley team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he knocks out Mike Tyson. You know, on the Tonight Show, and all he wants to talk about is his basketball prowess. Douglas, right? You know, not that he knocked out Tyson. Yeah. Johnny said, you were a great basketball player, which, oh yeah, I was a great hoopster. So I pull out the box score. He didn't even get off the bench. You know, like, Buster loved basketball.
Dean Davis, the coach of Lyndon McKinley, ended up being a grad assistant at Indiana. So many times we had some conversations with him when we go to Indiana. So anyways, those are our reflections on those 4 years. not 4 years, 3 years plus previous to that. And so now we'd like to open up some questions and see what you want to ask us.
Yeah, does anyone got any videos of any of your games? Where we
There's
can have access?
recorded over. Well, the best video is the highlight video that the library has, which Jack put together a video. It's kind of funny you asked that. After we lost to beat McKinley my junior year, we went down the street to some neighbor's house who actually had it on video through TV or something, but I never know of any video of the Camp McKinley game. There is a video, a film of the state championship game that I think they give to every winning team. That
It was
is
kind
around.
of like the ceiling of St. John's. and you couldn't
Yeah,
see
it's
anything.
really grainy, there's no sound, and we played back in the dark ages.
None of the players are funny or anyone got copies of.
Were you guys still
friends with Paul
Herman? Yes, very much so. We're,
We used to bring them to Barberton back.
Yeah.
later on.
yeah,
You
Paul.
guys hated each other in high school and then you got to be friends. right?
Oh, we're good friends. We're gonna be playing golf with Paul in June up north in Michigan, so we're good friends with Paul.
Yeah, I'm from Canton originally, so I've been up here for about 20 years, my wife's from Barberton, but I played against you guys when you were juniors. I played for Larry Wilson, Josh Hussein.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, God, that's the hottest gym I ever played in my life.
That place, a lot of people don't understand when I'm listening to this tape, because I played with Elmer Jackson and Leonard Washington and Mike Midday. All them guys were all, they all graduated at the same time I did. But what you people don't understand is that Leonard Washington and Elmer Jackson were touted as like the best two guards in the state at that time. So what they were playing against, because I didn't know them, but I know them too because I grew up with them, but they were classified in the state of Ohio as the two best backcourt guys in the state. Because they both could score real well. They had a hell of a team. And you go over to Timken before they called you had mid-A and all that, and then you get Kevin Betts over at Lincoln. I grew up with all these guys. So a lot of you people don't know, you listen to that, but Elmer Jackson and Leonard Washington were a handful. And I played with Freddie and I played with Zeddy Sims. They came down. We got them to come down to Canton playing rec league ball with us. So I played for years, so I know exactly what you're.
Don't forget Art Timberlake, Lincoln,
Yeah, I know Bobby. I grew up with him. You lived around the
who
corner.
was really, really good as well.
Yeah.
So that, and there's Lincoln, McKinley now.
Guys, speak about how you got recruited for college and how that played out, like,
Yeah.
I'm sure you were sought after by lots of schools and I don't recall.
The first school that walked in to see us was William and Mary, and then Duke also came in.
This is before Duke was Duke, though.
Yeah, this was Bill Foster was the coach and short little coach. And it was, Duke wasn't really that good back then, so Duke wasn't Duke. And we had decided to go together. I think they wanted us to come visit. They probably wanted one of us. But we decided to go to Michigan. We'll talk about that. But in our freshman year, we're sitting in the West Quad watching the national championship game, and it's Kentucky and Duke. We're going, well, maybe we should have taken that trip, which we did not.
Ohio State did recruit us. I think they only wanted one of us. Elton Miller was the coach. It was because we were wanting to go together. I think it limited the pool. I think we were really fortunate in a school like Michigan wanted both of us, to be honest with you, because we're so similar. The week after we lose the state title, we take our official visit to Michigan. I kind of knew where I wanted to go. He was a holdout. I don't know why I took him. But we knew Michigan was kind of, so a week after we go on the trip to Michigan, first time I was ever on an airplane. But we go there and the first person, they're smart, they have us meet is Bo Schembechler. And so in Chrysler Arena, we go meet Bo. He doesn't even say, hi, how you doing? Great to meet you. He says, what the hell happened? Because we lost, Bo, but in retrospect, we're just happy he knew. Later on in life, we learned that.
Oh, man, I was so pissed off. Oh, later on, I found out, long story, I had Jack Harbaugh come to Cincinnati and speak. And he wanted an autograph. This is an interesting, cool story, by the way. I'll make it quick. So we had Jack Harbaugh come to Cincinnati 5 years ago to speak to an alumni group. And I told Jack, we don't pay you, Jack. He goes, all I want. He goes, Bo used to always talk about Hal Narragon. And Jack Harbaugh grew up near Mansfield as an Indians fan. He goes, all I want is Hal Aragon's autograph. That's all Jack Harbaugh wanted. So I call Mike. Andy gets the number. We call Hal. We go over. Hal's got his picture. He signs it. Hal didn't even know who Jack Harbaugh was because Hal's into baseball. And yeah, Jack comes to speak. We frame it. And Jack put it in his basement. And still to this day, it's a treasured piece of memorabilia for Jack Harbaugh.
And they talked for about an hour.
Jack
Couple
called him
weeks
after,
before,
talked for
Hal
an
passed
hour.
away, they talked
and
about Hal.
Al passed like 6 months after that.
So yeah, we kind of end up in Michigan. Bo had something to do with it, but I gotta go back.
But what I wish I'd known is Bo was the losing pitcher senior year in the championship. How cool would that be to know that?
Wow.
I just want to say, there's a lot of people in here that played for Jack. And, you guys touched upon it already, but Jack was just so special. He made it, like you talked about it, Marty, like basketball was such a happening, like the biggest thing in your life, and it meant so much, and not only to the players, but like talk about the fans and the cheerleaders and it's just, and being in education for 45 years, I still look back at all those lessons that Jack taught us, about don't worry about the other guy, just get it done, but I think that's what's missing today. A lot of times when you look at teams and you look at sports and you talked about AAU, but you just didn't mess around. You had, when you crossed that line to come to practice, it was practice. And, Jack just had a way, and you touched upon it too. You'd see him in the hallway and he'd goof around with you and you'd be like, he called me Hercheck my whole sophomore year. He didn't know who I was. So.
I guess we were all interchangeable parts.
I got a quick story about that. We were in practice and I was a JV player, right? And Dan Hercheck was on the teams. We sort of looked alike, tall and skinny. And Bob Maloney was the assistant coach, and Jack was said, Hercheck, get in there. And he's talking to me. Well, I don't get off the wall. But you remember the wall. So he says, Hercheck, get in there. And I didn't get off the wall. He came over and grabbed me by the jersey, swung me into the practice. And so years later, when I was coaching at Barberton, Bob Maloney said, I told Jack that day your name was Brabson. So anyway, I know we all have Jack Reynolds stories. I know this is not the time to tell all our stories, but
He had a sense of humor too.
Jack was so special. To so many people.
So
I have a special story to tell you because I moved into Barberton in 1971. I worked in Akron all my life. had 3 young boys, babies. So I never saw you play until the semifinal game of 1977. My wife was on one side of the gym. We had scalped 2 tickets. I got to see that game. But then after your season was over, you played about 5 or 6 games up at North High School.
Yeah. Cage Classic.
You were called the Tuxedo 5 or something.
Cage Classic, I think they call it.
Yeah.
Hello, Doug's.
Ohio, Texas.
I watched every one of those games. So I had never seen you play before, except for that one game. But then one of the most amazing things, I think I saw your very last game your team you guys ever played as a team. I was sitting in my office at downtown Akron, and I heard somebody said, Barberton's going to play the Soviet Union.
yeah, Kent State, yeah.
Now think about that.
That's right.
The Soviet Union had an all-star team. Soviet Union, that would be today about 10 or 15 countries, right? And started playing the all-star team from Soviet Union.
Yeah.
So I drove up to Kent.
Jack coached that team, didn't he?
Yeah, okay. So I drove up to Kent. There's not very many people there. I don't think many people heard about it. Do you remember the?
I remember the game, sure.
Let me tell you how the game started. I only have 2 memories of it.
Well, tell me, because I don't have any.
I remember the game, but
The game started. The Soviet Union is coming up the floor, and the guy's coming up along the sideline. You trapped him just before he crossed the center line. You kind of trapped him right there. Within a second or two, you had the ball. He is already on his way to the basket. You threw the ball to him, he scores 2 points. They repeated the same thing the next play. I think about the third or fourth, they finally called timeout. And about the fourth attempt, they finally got across the midline. That was kind of the defense you guys played.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
that was Jack Reynolds' intensive.
I think it's probably the last time you guys ever played.
You know, it's interesting, you know, you say that because we were wondering if Jack ever scouted. And I remember Dean Smith wrote a book or retired. And in the Dean Smith book, Dean talked about how coaches would come to North Carolina, watch us run and jump. And he specifically in the book mentioned how Jack Reynolds from Barberton, Ohio would come down to Chapel Hill every summer, probably for a camp to learn the techniques of the run and jump. And so I think it was 12 months out of the year for Jack.
Yes.
Correct? And he did all those little things that we didn't really know. And to go ahead and make us a team. And what's great is just, it was a system that he didn't make practice that difficult. We did the same thing over and over and over. So it became repetition. And you said something I think is really important, Tom. I know that in today's world, I heard Jim Harbaugh speak a few years ago at Dayton. I know you don't like to hear that, Tim, but he was down in enemy territory. But he talked about the benefits of football. Harbaugh was really passionate about the game of football at the high school level. And I just think that high school sports, junior high and high school sports in this country is very, very, very important. So kids can learn adversity and how to overcome that adversity when they get on to life. I just needed to say that. So.
I would agree, because I got a great education at Barberton. Barberton really